Welcome to another anatomy video, everyone. Today I'm going to be going over the movements of the wrists and the fingers. So we'll start with the wrists. So if I turn my palms to face up, when you move the palms of the hands away from the forearms or the backs of the hands towards the forearms, this is called wrist extension. And whether you start with the palms up and move the backs of the hands towards the forearms, or you start with the palms down and move the backs of the hands towards the forearms, both of these are wrist extension. So back of the hand towards the forearm, like you're stopping traffic, is wrist extension. And then the opposite side of that is wrist flexion. So that's when you move the palms of the hands towards the forearm. So this is wrist flexion. So again, I'm showing it with the palms facing upwards. But if I turn my hands over, this is still wrist flexion, palms of the hands moving towards the forearms. So backs of the hands towards the forearms is extension, palms of the hands towards the forearms is flexion. Extension, flexion. It's a little confusing with the palms up and the palms down, but it's really the same thing. And then next is a much smaller movement, which is called ulnar and radial deviation. So if I hold on to my forearm bones and I move my hand towards the little finger side, that's my ulnar bone over there, that's called ulnar deviation. It's also called adduction. And again, if I flip my hand around, when I move towards the little finger side of the hand, it's still that same movement regardless, because it's a movement of the wrist. So that's adduction, and then the opposite of that is moving towards the radial side or the thumb side. It's a much smaller movement for most people. So this is ulnar and radial deviation, or adduction and abduction. And then, of course, there's circles with the wrists, which kind of combines a lot of different movements. And then lastly, we'll go with the fingers. So if I spread all my fingers apart from one another, this is called abduction of the fingers. So they're moving away from the middle finger. This is abduction. And then adduction is when you bring the edges of all your fingers to touch. So abduction and adduction. Abduction or spreading wide, and adduction or bringing together. Then we have the flexing of the fingers. So right now my fingers are extended. That means they're straight. And so I'm going to abduct them and spread them wide. And now I'm going to start to curl like into a claw. So now I'm flexing my fingers. And I keep curling until I get into a fist. And notice as you get to the fist, the fingers naturally adduct and come together. So this is full flexion of the fingers. And then as I start to straighten them, this is moving towards extension. And now I'm abducted, spreading wide. So claws, slowly squeeze into fists. This is full flexion. And then back out to extended fingers. So the fingers are extended here. And then any sort of bending of the fingers is called flexion. Whether it's bending at the top joints or bending at this joint and keeping these other joints, this is flexion. This is more flexion. And then the last movement of the fingers is circles. So I like to do it with all my fingers touching. And then you twiddle your thumbs both directions. So your thumbs are moving in a circle. And then touch the tips of the thumbs. And you can go through each finger and see how the fingers move in a circle. So twiddling your index fingers a few times each direction. And notice how it feels. Some of them are easier to do than others. Twiddling the middle fingers in circles. And then ring fingers, both directions. And then finally little fingers, both directions. And then just kind of rub your hands. Okay, that's the anatomical movements of the wrists, hands, and fingers. Thank you for tuning in.